At Direct Service Garage Doors, we are your one-stop shop for all things garage door. From garage door repair and broken spring replacement to new garage doors and openers, we do it all. We're proud to be among the highest-rated local garage door companies in all of Central Arkansas. Our highly trained technicians are available 24 hours a day at no extra cost to you. So if you have an emergency, call us today, 501-244-3667, or visit our website at directserviceoverhead.com. Don't wait days. We'll fix it now.
All right, everybody, welcome. Happy Friday. Hope you guys have had a great week. We've got a few things. Well, I say a few. I really about 2 or 3 things we're going to discuss. So let's do it. Let's get started off. Let's turn the mic up just a tad. All right, there we go. Okay. 3, 2, 1, yo! Welcome. Again, I hope you guys are having hope you've had a good week and a good so far a good Friday, okay? We're going to get to questions and comments in the chat here in just a little bit. What's going on, Michael Kopesky, Scott Swindle? Fellas, how you doing? Let's get the make sure you guys, like, share, and subscribe, of course. We're just kind of going in on we're going to go in on what Arkansas did in the draft. And also Arkansas got a transfer. Razorback basketball got a transfer. And we got a crystal ball update, one that is at the moment kind of a surprise, not going to lie to you. So, we just got a couple more of these here. Let's just share the wealth here. All right. So bold, yet spectacular. Are you guys in any of these like Razorback Nation Facebook groups? Shout out to Haas, by the way, who shares like all the content. Austin shares a lot. William Watkins shares a lot. I really do appreciate you guys. Let's see. The Razorbacks ended up getting 3 guys drafted. Okay? I thought they might get 4, but probably unlikely that it would end up being the 3 that got drafted. That's what it felt like it ended up being, and that's what you got. You got the 3. But yeah, you're jumping ahead of me, Michael. You're jumping ahead of me. We're going to get to the transfer here in just a second. Oh, it looks like A&M. I just saw this in our Discord. Texas A&M defensive assistant Terry Price has passed away. Oh, that's unfortunate. 1968 to 2023. That's sad. Rivalries pushed aside, right? Other things matter a hell of a lot more than sports. So rest in peace, Terry Price. That's sad. That's too bad. It's been kind of a woeful week. We know the Titanic, the submersible that was going to go check out the Titanic. We found out that those souls are they passed away. Very sad, of course. As always, thoughts and prayers, man. That's been just a sad week. Really has. So, all right. College World Series coming up. Florida and LSU. Damn it. Is it possible that they could both lose? Is that something that can happen? And it looks really bad, too, because a Wake Forest player came out and said nobody could beat us. Did you guys catch that video? Nobody could beat us. I mean, come on. And then, they got beat and eliminated. Done. Maybe that video was taken after their first win in the College World Series in their first matchup. I don't know, but I saw that a couple of days ago, and I thought, oh boy, that's not going to have a good look. That's not going to be a good look at all. Yeah, we are once again. I know these live streams. I actually had someone DM me. When was that? Sunday, I think. Someone said to me, I'm not digging these random streams because I don't ever know when you're going to go live, Ty. Well, listen, man, my life is chaotic during the summer, and I did write that individual back. But just for anybody else that I know a lot of you want to be here during the live shows when I go live randomly. Again, all I could say is I've been giving you a warning now for several weeks, actually months, that you just need to make sure you're subscribed and make sure you hit the notification bell. That's what you got to do. But hey, please, I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad if you're here live, I appreciate you. But I know the vast majority of you are not here during the live shows that watch these videos. So thank you for at least being here and watching. Arkansas got a transfer, and we're going to get to our sponsors here in just a minute. But Arkansas just got a transfer. Chandler Lawson from Memphis, who started his career off at Oregon. He ended up transferring to Memphis. So he started at Oregon as a 4-star forward. He ended up at Memphis. He had a season high last year. I think I read this right, 12 points. Finished with 10 points and 5 rebounds against top-ranked Houston at one point. Now, I need to actually pull that game up if I can find it. Apparently he has a really long wingspan. Is it 7'6", 7'7", something like that? I mean, that's huge. So Arkansas may have gotten themselves – I've seen people say he's a good two-way player. He can finish at the rim. The product that we've seen so far – the productivity, I should say, that we've seen so far does not indicate to me that he's a great two-way player. Typically, a two-way player offers something, obviously, on both sides of the floor, but it doesn't have to be scoring. It can be distribution. It could be assist, right? It could be knocking down the 3 ball. And maybe not getting 16 points a game, but he can knock down 2 or 3 threes a game. Now, he does have a really high percentage of shooting outside. It's something like 50%, but I think I was told he only shot like 15 or 14 threes all season long, and he made 50% of those. I mean, guys, that's not great. Like, this isn't you love that the potential's there, and maybe that's what Musselman's seeing. I did catch some of his highlights earlier today, but I'm just like I just discovered that he transferred here just not that long ago, so I didn't have time to do a whole bunch of research on him, but I know he's about a 62% free throw shooter. He's last year he got about 20 minutes a game. He's a 56% shooter. Again, 50% outside with about 14 attempts outside, 62% free throw shooter, and he averages about 4.5 rebounds. Just under 1 assist a game, 0.5 blocks a game, 0.7 steals a game, with 1 turnover a game, averaging just 5 points a game. So I don't know. If you're calling him a two-way player and you're backing that up, I guess I got to watch more film or highlights on YouTube or something. I know one thing, and you can't, and this is true, you cannot get everything from a stats sheet. I typically try to go in and get as much material on a player as I can get. I try to watch a little bit here and there. And obviously I just found out about this not that long ago, so I haven't had the time to do that, but I did catch a couple of highlights. But he does look like he could finish around the rim. Maybe he has potential that he could stretch the floor for Arkansas on the offensive end of the floor. I don't know. I mean, this isn't that, and not like you had a whole bunch to choose from either. We got to remember what time of the year it is. But he's 6'7", 215. He's going to play the 4 spot. That's going to help build the depth at that spot. But we're not talking about a 6'9", 6'8", 6'9" guy at the 4, but you are talking about a guy apparently with a really long wingspan. So he's got the wingspan to at least back up playing that 4 spot. So he'll end up playing again just as he did at Oregon. At Memphis, he's going to be a forward here. He'll play the 4. But it's not that 6'10", 6'11" center that everybody wanted. Everybody wanted another, a guy with tremendous reach, size, physicality. I'm telling you, at this point in the year, that's just not going to happen. And I don't know how many conversations I had with people about this. Either in group chats with my dad. Shout out to Arky56. He'll be watching this later tonight, I'm sure. But I've got to say, Dad, not a lot of options out there at this point in the season. I do think he has some potential. I like that he's averaging close to 5 rebounds a game despite not getting but about 20 minutes a game. That's not bad. For a guy who's 6'7" with really long arms, apparently his knuckles drag the floor, I guess, with that long wingspan that this guy has. I love his demeanor, man. I do like what little bit I have seen. And there are certainly plenty of 4s that do not shoot anywhere near 62% at the free throw line. But there are plenty of forwards who do, right? There are plenty of forwards who are shooting 68, 69, 70%. How often he got to the free throw line, I'm not entirely sure. I did see a highlight where he was drawing. He drew a couple of fouls, so maybe he's good at that. Maybe he can find his way to the charity stripe and be that piece this year in 23 for Arkansas. Maybe he can be a guy that can draw some contact fouls and can get to the free throw line and get some guys in some foul trouble. Hopefully he shoots a little better than 61%, but again, for a forward, for a guy with big old long arms like he has, you don't typically see a lot of forwards shooting anywhere near 72%, but he's at least at about 62%. So we'll see again. We'll see what he works on. Maybe he'll work on his free throw shooting. Maybe Musselman will set him up to – maybe he's going to be a role guy. Maybe he's just going to be that. They're going to expect him maybe to be a rebounder, a guy who – will he match 20 minutes a game here? That's a question, right? That'd be really good to ask Musselman. Is he going to match his 20 minutes? That's the most he actually, it's tied for the most. His freshman year at Oregon, he had 19.5 minutes, but he was shooting about 52%. 65% shooter at the free throw line that year. He averaged about 3.9 rebounds as a freshman, averaging close to 5 points. It certainly looked like he had a somewhat productive freshman year. Listen, you're getting 20 minutes as a freshman. That's not too bad. In Oregon, say what you want about them. They've been kind of up and down, but, that's still meaningful. He had somewhat of an impact as a freshman. But he is going to be a super senior. Another super senior. I think that puts them at – what is that number now? Is that 6? 5, 6? They're going to have a lot of experience, and that's something, too, I think Musselman – clearly was looking for as well. He may not have just been looking for size. He may have wanted a combination of a certain set of attributes, right? Like what they can do on the floor. Is there potential there for a two-way player? What's his arm length? What's his size? What's his, how well is he at drawing fouls, and how well does he do this and that? Oh, and is he a senior also? Maybe that was something too that Musselman was looking for. All right, shout out to Direct Service Overhead, the Garage Door Company, this show's very first sponsor. Same-day services, quality parts, affordable outcomes, all provided to you by Direct Service Overhead. The Garage Door Company. Their link is provided for you down below. If you're curious. Again, you don't have to have your door replaced. They can just, it just needs a little bit of work. Maybe it's not working properly, or you do want your whole door replaced. Give these guys a call. 501-244-3667. And, of course, the Odd Soul Craft Bar and Pizzeria, located on Emma Street in Springdale. Fantastic pies, great environment, awesome staff. Swing by there. I'm noticing more of you are reaching out to me about going. I've had a number of you either DM me in Discord or you've talked about it in Discord. People are hitting me up in other, Facebook, DMs, text groups I'm in. I love that you guys are at least asking about the place. That's awesome. That's something I want to help. I do want to help. Yeah, they're paying me. They are sponsors, absolutely. But I love that it's a local business getting your dollars, not Pizza Hut, not Papa John's. I love me a Papa John's pie. I'm not gonna lie to you. I am partial to Papa John's, but Odd Soul pies are fantastic. They're great. So it's cool that you guys are inquiring about the Odd Soul. You ought to go check it out, man. Really cool place. Shout out to Nick, the owner. Good guy. Mike A ain't getting it. What are you talking about? Oh, Leslie Byram says Mike Anderson can get the West Virginia job. Probably not. Leslie, more than likely he's either going to come back to the Tulsa area. I don't even know what he's up to now. I could see him coming back and maybe finishing out at a small mid-major or maybe even high school. I don't know. Maybe he goes back to Tulsa and he coaches a little bit of high school ball. I certainly think that Mike is a good basketball coach, and I've said it a number of times. It sucked that he didn't work out here. And obviously, right? Obviously it sucked that he, in his 8 years, they couldn't get past the second round. Sure, but we all wanted, those of us who remember the Nolan Richardson years, anyone who's ever met the guy, he is a stand-up dude. Only ever heard that about Mike. Really good guy. And I just thought he fit the mold here so well, obviously with that connection to Nolan and being an assistant here in that style of play too, right? Hated that it didn't work out here. But and I was hoping he would do good at his last gig, and unfortunately he was let go. My first live, thank you for what you do. Hey, I appreciate you, Hot Rod Fuller. Appreciate you, man. Thank you. Welcome. Make sure you subscribe. I'm sure you're already a subscriber. I'm just, flapping my gums. I did watch the Memphis versus Houston game. The kid has talent, just needs to be more assertive, says Kopesky. Okay, there you go. I'll do a little bit of I need to catch up on all the transfers. I really do. Mike coached us well enough to be cheated blatantly by the refs versus Carolina. Oh, my God. Oh, don't remind me. Oh, that was such a disappointing. Oh, the way the final minutes of that game went down. Just atrocious officiating. Just so bad. What's going on, Philip? Philip, come on, man. Come on, dude. Philip, you're an OG here. Why are you spelling my name with an E? See, Thomas Nunley, who, by the way, another OG, and he's in legendary status, by the way, to the Patreon. Shout out to Patreon supporter legendary status members. Thomas Nunley is one of those. Look at that. TY, that's it, my guy. Philip, come on. Am I going to have to put an E at the end of your name, Philip? I'm just kidding, but seriously, though, no E. No E. Let's see. Scrolling up here. Yo, let's go football. Yeah, we do have a crystal ball update. Let's get into the crystal ball update. Why not, huh? This one's a little bit surprising. Actually, it's really surprising if I'm being honest with you. Let me pull it up here. Where's my Patreon chat? Okay, if you're a Patreon member, you're already well aware of this. And I try to tell you, I tell you guys all the time that recruiting, when you're talking about 17, 18-year-old young men, it could change daily, and that's the way recruiting goes. Jaquan McCroy, 4-star offensive tackle out of Pinson, Alabama, was given a crystal ball to Oregon yesterday. This is surprising. Woke up to a text message that said Rutrow. That was literally the words. Rutrow. And this is not from someone I wanted to see that from. And sure enough, there it was. There was the crystal ball. I don't know. I really thought Arkansas, I'm not going to lie to you, and again, Patreon members know this, I really thought, and maybe it's still the case, maybe this is an overreaction. This is Steve, was it Steve Williftong? Is that how you pronounce his last name? I know 247 people are going to get pissed that I'm mispronouncing that, but whatever. Sorry. You know who I'm talking about. Gave him a crystal ball yesterday to Oregon, and he's on his official visit, I think today, to Oregon. So he got the crystal ball before, I guess, he went on his visit, or maybe it started yesterday. I don't know, but he's supposed to be there at least today. That sucks. 6'8", 365-pound, 4-star offensive tackle. Again, it's just a crystal ball. That doesn't mean these guys aren't perfect. I don't know what his prediction. I don't know what his batting average is. Steve's. I don't know what it is. I don't know if he's batting. Like, what's his batting average on these predictions? I don't know. But, again, Jaquan McCroy, crystal ball to Oregon. So we'll see how this goes. His official announcement is June 30th. So we'll find out in 7 days unless he pushes it up. If he pushes it up, that's real bad news. If you're an Arkansas fan, that is. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. We'll track it. But at the moment, Oregon appears to be in the lead for Jaquan McCroy. So, Wiltfong. Is that how you pronounce it? Is it Wiltfong? Austin says, join the Patreon, folks. Well worth the info. Yeah. Philip says, plenty of crystal balls for Ron Holland, Arkansas, but we see how that way. Exactly. I mean, that is true. That is true. But right now, this is his only crystal ball. What's up, Hoyt? How you doing, man? Hope all's well. Hope all is well. That tackle would be a huge pickup. Yeah, he would. Arkansas is better than you think. What's up, man? How you doing? How's it going? Paul, hope you're doing swell. We got Patreon folks all up in this chat. Shout out to you guys. What'd I just push? That was my Windows key. Okay, I thought I was about to close out this live. All right, let's get on to the NBA talk. All right. I'm kind of surprised I haven't been and maybe this is because I'm live because I'm random now during the summer and I'm not on a scheduled, week setting, which I plan to be during the fall when we come back around, but I'm a little bit surprised I haven't been pelted yet in chat about Nick Smith Jr. Nick Smith Jr. slid completely out of the lottery pick. Out of the lottery picks. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm surprised. Now, there was a lot of indication, like the days leading up to the draft, that he could be sliding. I think I had even read one place that thought he may completely dip out of the top 20, and that person ended up being right. Nick Smith not being taken in the lottery. Had you read all of the info leading up to the draft, it's not completely shocking. Now, I didn't. I just seen some stuff here and there on Twitter. Some of the talking heads in the NBA who thought that Nick would probably slide. What I gather from that is we just completely underestimated the how careful these front offices and these GMs are when it comes to the injuries that Nick Smith sustained. I do believe that his, when he came back, it was. I know there are a number of people out there who either thought Nick Smith was completely overrated. There's a number of folks out there who believe that, he was listening to other people, and that got in the way of his, how things went down and him taking some extended time off during the season. We were told he went out west to go rehab his knee, and I don't know. I guess that's what you guys were telling me in chat. I don't know that I ever got that verified or confirmed. I guess he did. I've just taken it as truth. But I do think that there was something more there about that, with the injury, and I do think teams were a little bit more hesitant to take him. Listen, you still had 2 first-round draft picks in the first round. You still had 2 first-round picks. Walsh is the guy I'm looking at, and I'm thinking, dude, you're going to spend the first – I could be off. I could be way off on Walsh. He just strikes me as a guy that's going to get – he might year one get an opportunity and get called up, and maybe he'll make the team and have a pretty good rookie year, whatever that might look like. He certainly looked good during the during the workouts and whatnot. He looked really good. He tested really well. I still think it sucks that it feels like he's going to end up being developed in the NBA. And that might mean getting sent down. That might mean spending a lot of time on the Pine or elsewhere, right? Whereas had he come back for another year, and I know he wasn't real happy with his role on the offensive end of the floor at Arkansas. I think he said as much. I'm trying to pull up all the picks here. I think he said as much. But who knows, maybe he could have, during the offseason and just the regular stages of development, maybe he finds his offensive rhythm within Muss's system. Therefore, Muss is more willing to play him, and he becomes a tremendous two-way player, and he can show that off at a higher level, right? But I don't know. I like the pick for Boston. I don't know for the Celtics. I don't know how they're going to utilize him next year. We knowing at the college level, Walsh could certainly guard the 1 through 4 spot. He could guard any wing. He could guard a certain forwards, smaller, more lower built, down to earth centers, guys that aren't 7 feet tall or 6'11", he could play a little bit of man. He could certainly do his piece down there. He could have a little bit of success against a 5, but he was more of a 4-on-4, 3-on-3 kind of guard or a defender. But could defend just about anybody on the floor. I don't know that he's going to be able to do that in the NBA. He's got long reach, big hands. He's a pretty good defender. I don't think his defensive ability is what got him on the floor. We've seen him have a couple of games in 2022 where on the offensive side of things he looked okay. Could finish at the rim a little bit at times, but it still seemed like on the offensive end of the floor he had a lot of work to do. And then he tests really well during the offseason or testing out for the NBA, and they think he could become a really good two-way player. And we'll see. Again, we'll see what he does in Boston. I just have a feeling that Walsh is going to end up being a development guy, kind of a project player, either at Boston or somewhere else for the first 2-3 years of his career, where he could have benefited himself greatly by coming back and maybe putting himself in position to becoming, I don't know about a lottery pick, but becoming maybe a top 20 pick, top 25 pick in the draft, in the 2024 NBA draft. He just seems to me like there's just a couple of things. He's still a little raw on the offensive end of the floor, and I think that's why Muss kind of shackled him on the offensive end of the floor. I think that's why Muss did what he did with him, and I know it doesn't seem like he was too thrilled about it. And he certainly did pretty well testing on the offensive end of the floor. Maybe we all got it wrong, including Muss. Maybe he goes off into the NBA and he becomes a fantastic offensive player. But we all know, we saw him as a defender. If he could stay out of foul trouble, he had a big effect on games. Hell, even when he was in foul trouble, he had a big effect, a positive effect for Arkansas on the floor when he could stay out of foul trouble or even in foul trouble. He could still have an effect on the game. He could have an impact on the game from a defensive standpoint. Never really developed into the offensive side of things. I don't know that – he just looks so raw to me on the offensive end of the floor. And again, maybe that was just his role within Musselman's system. I just think he should have come back and could have had a legit shot at making more money. Instead, he's going to have to spend the first couple of years, who knows, maybe 3 years of just being developed. And so, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Muss is the guy who I think can develop talent. I think he can develop. That rhetoric on Twitter that he doesn't know how to develop. Of course, it's all coming from, you're a Bama fan if you're saying that. You're so full of shit if you don't think that Muss knows how to develop these guys and get them ready for the NBA. You're so full of shit. You're not paying attention. He's done a fantastic job of getting these guys in position to get drafted at a higher level than they would have had they gone anywhere else. I don't know that Walsh, and this is a good question, had Walsh gone anywhere and been the guy, been the star, been the 5-star McDonald's All-American on an average roster, would that have propelled him higher? I don't think so, because I think eventually he would have been exploited. I think during testing they would have seen, even though his testing actually did him good, I still think they would have put him, no matter what, he is where he's at, mostly because of his testing. And because he was, former McDonald's All-American and, we saw what he could do at Arkansas in his freshman season. But testing had such a big part of it. And of course, also the biggest cloud over any player going through all these stages is your potential. Your potential is what, really drives these guys, these front offices and these GMs and these coaches to make the decisions that they do based on their draft picks. Walsh has a lot of potential. I do believe that. It just might take him a little bit to get there. Nick Smith, I don't know, man. I'll admit it. I was wrong. I'll admit it. I'll just come out and say I was wrong. I completely underestimated the injury. I probably should have put more thought into that, just thinking about where he could be drafted. And I do recall saying I could see him sliding out of the top 10, but I felt like a worst-case scenario for him was the bottom end of the lottery pick, pick 12, 13, or so on. But to slide that far back, it's clear that one of two things, I'm sure, probably crossed these teams' minds, and it was when he came back, he did more damage to his potential than anything, or his, to the body of work that is Nick Smith. He did more damage by coming back. He didn't have to come back. He could have sat out. Listen, if players do that in football and they don't really catch a lot of heat, why the hell would any player in college basketball catch any heat? Why should any player catch a lot of heat? I could understand it. I could certainly understand from a fan's point of view, wow, that could have negative consequences on the game, and I agree, and I'm not condoning it. But I'm also not – I'm trying my hardest not to condemn it. He didn't have to come back, guys. Nick Smith did not have to come back. It clearly hurt him coming back, and it cost him. I'm sure that's what his agents, his family, I'm sure that's what they're talking about and what they're discussing. Is that, man, I should just not come back. I'm not blaming Musselman. I mean, you have someone like Nick Smith, and there's all this clout on all these people looking for clout on Twitter, talking out of their ass about, well, Muss just doesn't know how to handle the Nick Smith situation. I think he handled it as well as he could. And when you've got a 5-star McDonald's All-American, highly, highly sought after prospect who's healthy and is able to come back, and you tell him no, if that were to get out there, can you imagine what fans would do? Especially not advancing to the Elite Eight. They would put it on Musselman. So, of course, he came back and he played him. Why wouldn't he? He does have potential. Nick Smith has a ton of potential. But for him to fall that far back was my jaw just kept going like an inch lower with every pick. I just could not believe the guys that were getting drafted ahead of him. I don't know that I saw Amari Bailey getting taken in front of him, guy out of UCLA. That was one. Amari Bailey. There were several guys that they considered to be point guard, although Nick Smith's more of a combo guard. There are a number of players as you go down the list, and you're like, wait, what? I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. Not Amari. I'm getting him mixed up with the other point guard, or the other player off the top of my head. The other point guard, kid out of Michigan. What the hell's his name? Kid out of Michigan. The point guard. What the hell's his name? Kobe Buffkin. That's it. Kobe Buffkin. I don't know that I saw him getting drafted in front of him. Now, he wasn't a lottery pick. Keontae George out of Baylor. I don't know. I thought Utah had so many picks in the first round, and I'm like, did they just squander all three of their picks? I'm not big on the kid out of Central Florida. I'm not big on some of these picks. But these guys all go in front of Nick Smith, and it's just like with every pick, my jaw just gets an inch closer to the desk. As I'm sitting here watching this, I'm thinking about going live after it's done. And then they do the second round, and this damn thing wasn't over until 11 o'clock, so I wasn't going to do a post-draft at 11 o'clock at night. But it just was so surprising to me how far down he fell, and he just kept falling. Nick Smith just kept falling. Marcus Sasser was taken in front of him. You name anybody out of that first round, those guys that kind of play that are considered kind of that 1-2 spot. Just about any guard, really. And you're just, I don't know. It's surprising. It's really surprising to me. And I don't know. It just is what it is. Listen, he got taken in the first round. It's been a while since Arkansas has even had just 3 players drafted at all in the same year, in the same draft. I do have that pulled up. So if you look at the history here, the last time you had 3 players taken in the same draft was 1992. No, that was 4 players. 1, 2, 3, 4. They had 4 players in 92, right? Yeah, you had Isaiah Morris, who was taken the 37th overall pick. I vaguely remember him. Vaguely, like not really that much. Lee Mayberry, Oliver Miller, and Todd Day, of course. We know the big 3 there. Todd Day and Lee Mayberry both went to Milwaukee. For like a half a second in 92, of course I wanted because Lee Mayberry was my favorite player. I wanted a Milwaukee Bucks. I wasn't a Buck fan, but Lee Mayberry was my favorite Razorback. He's probably my first favorite Razorback growing up was Lee Mayberry. But Oliver Miller, Todd Day, all 3 went in the first round. And Isaiah Morris, God, why do I vaguely remember him? 1992, man. So I was wrong. I thought they'd only ever done that. I said that last night. Would have been the first time in history. They had 4 players drafted. They have had 4 players drafted before, total. And they've had multiple years of first-round picks. of multiple first rounders, right? Like I just said, 92 was one of those years, and now you've had 2023. And man, you go back, you look at some of these players that were drafted. At 83, you had Darrell Walker, and the following year you had Alvin Robertson. You guys remember those names? Some of you OGs. Those are some OG names. But yeah, Anthony Black to me, going to Orlando feels like the best place for any of these guys to land. Nick Smith, who's going to go with you-know-who over to Alabama or to Charlotte. That's an interesting one. But Black, to me, feels like that's the best scenario. He's going to be a day one. I think he's going to be a day one starter. I'd be shocked if he wasn't. If he was a rotation guy, and he won't be. He's going to be a starter down in Orlando. But Charlotte, who ended up with Brandon Miller and Nick Smith, James Nanji and Amari Bailey are their total 4 picks out of Charlotte. ESPN gave them a B+ grade. But what they say about Nick Smith, it's you hate to admit it, but it's true. They say as underwhelming as Smith's season at Arkansas was, that seems like an overcorrection. Charlotte was also appropriately aggressive in moving up. Yeah, Nanji, blah, 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 into the second round. But Charlotte had a pretty good draft. I was kind of surprised ESPN only gave them a B+. I thought Nick Smith and Brandon Miller, I think a lot of people are looking at Nick Smith's return and how underwhelming it was, and that's just what they're going with. I think a lot of fans are. I think that's, and even I was reading some of the Charlotte fans' their reactions on Twitter, and I'm going to be honest with you, a lot of them didn't seem like they really cared much for that pick. And it's crazy to think, coming into the year, this was a guy that was looked at and touted for a while, talking about preseason, going into the 2022-2023 college basketball season. Nick Smith was considered a top 6 pick in the draft by a lot of the talking heads around, the pro basketball circuit, the media folks that follow the draft and all that. A lot of people thought he was a top 6, a lock to be a lottery pick. And then look how far back. I mean, there was a while there. What was he, 3 picks away from being out of the first round? It's just, man, you talk about a drop. Now, you have players every year that drop. I mean, it happens. But that's a hell of a drop. You're talking about potentially 20-plus spots dropped. And I do think it had something to do with how he returned. And it felt like square peg, round hole, despite him having a couple of glowing moments in terms of just looking at the stat sheet, right? He had a couple of games where it was like, okay, here it is. Here's the Nick Smith we were all told about. Here he is. He's coming in full force. We're back, baby. We're back. We're going to the Final Four. We're coming back, baby. And then, face to the floor kind of moment. And it just is what it is. It happened. It's unfortunate. I also wonder where Brazil, had he been healthy all year, what that could have looked like. I think you definitely would have had 4 Razorbacks drafted. I don't think there's any doubt there. Definitely would have had 4 Razorbacks drafted. Ricky Council. Who did he sign with? I did not see that. Oh, where did Ricky Council? He signed with somebody here. Let me pull that up. Ricky Council. What are you doing? That's you. Ricky Council. Ricky Council. He's out west, right? Didn't he sign with a Western team? Oh, no. He did not. He went to Philly. Okay, my bad. For some reason, I was thinking he went out west. Get to know new Sixers guard Ricky Council after 2-way deal. So yeah, he's looks like he's going to be a Sixer. We'll see how well he does. I wasn't shocked he didn't get drafted. His status or his stock was all over the place. I mean, there were people that had him as a top 25 pick to anywhere to not being drafted at all, and clearly the people that didn't have him drafted were correct. So, yeah, I'm going to stand with I like the pick for the Celtics to get Walsh. I just think he's going to be a work in progress, and that's fine. I think as long as they can eventually get something out of him, Again, maybe they'll let him off, let the shackles off. I do think Musselman shackled him a little bit, but it was for design purposes, right? It was for what he was working with on the floor in that short 7-man rotation. I think that was just the role he wanted Walsh in and felt like it would better serve the team moving forward. So we'll see, man. Maybe he'll prove us all wrong, and I say all of us. I know a lot of you probably think he'll do really well. And again, I'm not saying he won't. I just kind of believe he might be he's going to be a work in progress kind of guy. But I do think that the best spot for any player anywhere, for Arkansas, that is, it's Anthony Black to Orlando. It just feels, that's what a move, man, by Orlando. Not a shock. A lot of people thought that's where Orlando would go with their pick, and that's what they did. They went and grabbed Mr. Black. Dude, the Magic are on the come up. I'm telling you, man. Orlando might be something to deal with. May not be as soon as this year, but in the near future, I think they could be a problem. Nonetheless, this draft was huge for the image. Yeah, well, having 3 players drafted is big. What does that put Musselman at now? I was just looking at this. 1, 2, so 6 players drafted total in the Musselman era. Is that right? Looks like Isaiah Joe, Moses Moody. Of course, Moody was his first rounder. I feel like we're missing some names here. You go back to before Moses Moody, 2015 was the first time he had was the last time he had a first round draft pick. Of course, Moody was in 2021. But you're going to add 6, so he's got 6 total draft picks if I'm looking at that right. It feels like we're missing somebody in the Musselman era. And I think that's 14 total. I thought I had this typed out here. I want to say that's 14 total first-round draft picks. It might be more. It's right around there. Yeah, I was kind of hoping Walsh, with all that hype that he got, especially out of the testing phases before the draft, I was hoping really someone would pull the trigger at the end of the first round. Like, oh, man, just give him a shot. How cool would that be to have 3 first-round draft picks, first time since 92? How cool would that have been? But he went further back. He honestly kind of slid further back than I thought he would. I really thought that teams it was just kind of like a done deal. Okay, we're bought in. Walsh is going to be fantastic. And again, I want to be clear. It wouldn't shock me if Walsh went out his rookie year and actually was a huge piece for Boston. I don't see that, just knowing what I know about the Celtics. I don't see him coming in and breaking the door down immediately. Down the road, I could see him being a big piece. And he could make the rotation year one as a defender, man. I'm hopeful that what he accomplished in college translates onto the floor in the NBA as a defender. You can make some good money. Not like you can, obviously, if you're a great offensive player, but, maybe he'll be something more, a great two-way player. So 6 players, again, if I'm looking at that right, in the Musselman era, and those are his second and third first-round draft picks, along with Moses Moody, Anthony Black, and Nick Smith. Should help in recruiting. What's up, Tim? How you doing, man? Yeah. Well, it should. It should help you in recruiting. The thing that concerns you a little bit is Nick Smith's slide. I could totally see someone putting that, and we already saw it. We saw some Mizzou fan flapping their gums too about how he mishandled Nick Smith's situation and he slid back. That's not on Musselman, man. I'm just not putting it on Musselman. I'm not. I think at the end of the day, I think injuries matter, and I think we just really underestimated how the NBA, how these front offices and GMs and coaches and so on and so forth, how much value they put in that. Like, if how healthy you were, obviously through your previous season at the college level, and an injury as serious as his was, the extended amount of time that he missed, I think they certainly, and again, when he came back, it just felt like, I use this a lot, but I'm just going to continue saying it because I think it's the best way to say it. It was a square peg, round hole. There was no Brazil, right? He was trying to find his way. And it just didn't really mesh along with Ricky Council. It just didn't work. I just don't think it really worked. I hope he has a great NBA career. Obviously, I hope all these guys have a great NBA career, but I don't like that he ended up in Charlotte. I don't like that at all. I don't think that was a great place for him to go. Maybe he'll overcome all the obstacles. I think he's certainly capable. I think his potential is really freaking high. Jalen, what are you talking about? Yeah, we factored in Jalen. Jalen was not a first rounder though. Jalen, Moses Moody, and Isaiah Joe were the 3 picks. But Jalen Williams was not a first rounder. He was a 34th pick. If you guys remember, he was another one I thought could have come back and really pushed his game into that first round status. I still think that. But obviously it ended up being a right move for him over at as the 34th pick to OKC. Just getting here. I'm glad I made it. What's up, Tony? How you doing, man? Steven says 6 players drafted in 4 years, which is more than the last 10 and maybe 15 years combined. I don't want to go that far back, but you go back to 01, you've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So you've had 12 players drafted in the 2000s. Joe Johnson in 01, who went to the Celtics, of course, 10th overall pick. And by the way, Joe Johnson was your highest pick in the 2000s. Anthony Black is now the highest pick in the 2000s. Joe Johnson, of course, was the 10th pick to the Celtics. Anthony Black was the 6th pick to Orlando. So, yeah, 01 is 22 years. Yeah, no, I went back on purpose. I'm talking about the whole 2000s, Steve. In the Kansas game, Arkansas did better with Nick on the bench. Nick had 2 fouls in the first 4 minutes of the game. Nick needs a lot of work to last in the NBA. Well, those guys happen all the time. Not everybody comes out as a rookie or even a second-year guy despite being given a high evaluation. Those guys, sometimes it takes 2, 3, 4 years to really get going in the league. It just happens. No, I don't know. Arkansas is better than you think. I don't know if either of these guys are one and done. Bayfall and Blocker. I don't know. I kind of think right now we have a pretty decent idea of what the starting 5 and what the rotation could look like. No, I'd say I would lean towards unlikely, but you never know. Again, who would have thought that Brazil would be the monster that he became in 2022 coming from Mizzou, where they didn't know how to utilize Brazil, or he just didn't fit what they were doing. Look what he did in a short amount of time at Arkansas, right? Had he stayed healthy through the year, there's no doubt in my mind he was a first-round pick. There's no doubt in my mind. He was given first-round evaluations, before we even got into December. People were blown away by how well he worked at Arkansas in a short amount of time. No doubt in my mind that Brazil would have been a first-round pick. Who would have thought that, right? Who would have thought that Nick would fall? Of course, his were, the variable in that equation is the injury, right? He got banged up and obviously banged up his knee and really messed everything up. I know that this is the NBA draft. Well, it's not technically the NBA draft show, but it more or less is. But I'm getting really excited for football. I think this is going to be a great season. Yeah, I'm with you, Tim. Yeah, I'm with you. I haven't given away my prediction yet, but, soon. Well, allergies. I think it's something in this room. I really do. I sit down in here, and as soon as I go live, it just hits me all at once. Like I can't, I get all nasally. I get that congestion. Sucks, man. I'm sitting here. I feel like I need to blow my nose. Unfortunately, this isn't radio where I can just have a radio, have an advertisement roll up, bail me out for a minute, let me blow my nose. Happy Flamingo Friday. What's up, Kate Dreyer? How you doing? Long time. It has been, Kate. Hope you're doing well. Remember to like. Oh, we had a $5 super chat, and I missed it. Hold up. Oh, I'm sorry, Fish. My bad, man. I just saw that on my chat revenue. Seems like it's always what if with Razorback Sports, but getting Holland would have been insane in a good way. Yeah. Been a lot of There's been some whiffs during this offseason, but I still think Arkansas basketball's in really good shape for 23. We'll know a lot more. Of course, we know now they don't have any spots left. They're done. We'll see. We got a long ways to go until we get closer and closer to November. Obviously, in October, we'll start bringing in more basketball content. But, yeah, Joe Johnson, you could tell from day one, he was a legit NBA star. He was great. There's no doubt. His NBA career was fantastic. Fantastic. Maybe your allergies are coming from all of the Arizona germs that are on that helmet. Sorry, should have cleaned it. Is that what it is from the helmet, Tim? I'm telling you. I sit down and I do my notes. I usually do about like an hour of prep before every live. I'll sit here and I'll kind of write out my script, go over my notes, my bullet points. And then I go in with, I know that chat is going to be, I'm going to go back and forth with chat a little bit. So I'm typing all this out. I'm doing my whole progression for a show. And then not to mention the research that goes into these shows. But I'm in here and usually about an hour, it just kicks in. It might be this fan. I don't know. There might be dust collecting on the fan and it's just coming down on top of me. It just kicks my ass. I don't know, Kopesky. I'm not sure, man. I'll have to talk with Dudley on the baseball stuff. A lot of people having nasty sinus infections right now. I'm telling you, brother, it's that time of year for me, dude. June, it just never fails. But in here, it's like year round. Nick Smith Jr. really cared about being a Hog. You could see after every tourney game that it killed him not being able to get going. Yeah. I've never understood the Nick Smith hate. I've never gotten it. I've never been on that bus. I was thankful that he decided to come back. I was happy that he did. I thought Arkansas would benefit. It did not have a positive impact. It didn't. And again, I've owned up to it. I was wrong. I'm still shocked that he didn't get drafted in the lottery. I really am. I mean, even knowing what we know now on how things ended during the season, how his minutes were kind of, I don't want to say all over the place, but you never were really sure how many minutes he was going to get, especially after, going into March. We just didn't really know what we had in Nick Smith. But even still, because it's not like I followed the NBA draft to a T for decades, but knowing what I know, being a fan of the NBA, being a Boston Celtics fan for years, and kind of keeping up with who they draft and, what the team looks like and knowing how they draft, the thing that always comes up is it's always about their projection, how well they could – their potential, really, how well they could potentially be. Do they fit the – and there is, too. There is something to be said about fitting certain team dynamics and what these coaches are looking for when they build their teams. But it's always based on, or a lot of the times it's majority based on how high is this kid's ceiling 2-3 years down the road. And Nick's, everything anybody told us was this dude is a legit top 8 pick in the draft. He is a major recruit for Arkansas. 5-star. We've gone over the accolades, McDonald's All-American, so on and so forth. But, that's what I was really leaning on, and what I've always leaned on when we talk about draft picks. But this is the first time for a Razorback who, with this kind of potential, not that Arkansas's had very many of these, right? Let's be honest. But for the amount of potential that he has, even if he were an Alabama player, if we were talking about Miller, for him to drop that far back was just shocking. It was just shocking. And I was wrong. I was wrong, man. And that's the other thing about injuries. We just sometimes as whether you're media, you're a fan, you're some fat guy with a microphone and a Logitech 4K webcam, sometimes we just don't look in deep enough to the things that matter the most to these GMs and to these coaches. And it's like, look, man, he was hurt. This is the way I view it. Who was projected? Who was the team that everyone said he was going to end up with? A lot of teams had him, or a lot of people had him going, that's going to kill me now. There were two teams that he just constantly kept popping up on their radar. But I'm sure they looked at plenty of film. They looked at his high school season, his last year in high school. They looked at his tape when he was at Arkansas. They looked at his tape when he was a McDonald's All-American, when he was in the game and whatnot. But I'm sure, too, at the end of the day, they looked at it and they go, okay, big-time prospect, killing it. Then he gets hurt. He comes back, and he loses minutes. I'm sure that had an effect on every GM. Are we sure we want to risk giving this kid big-time dollars when you see what he was unable to do when he came back after his injury? That had to weigh heavily on these guys because, of course, it did, right? And I think that ended up costing him. I think it ended up just costing Nick Smith. He shouldn't have come back. I mean, I'll just say it. I'll come out and say it. I may be the only guy that says it. He shouldn't have come back. He should have just, you know what? I'm sorry. I don't know that you want to come out with the approach it's a business decision, because then you're going to have the state of Arkansas, jump down your throat and come at you on Twitter. Let's just be real. Any fan base would. And I'm not condoning it, but it just would happen. But it would certainly be a business decision, and you could understand why if you really step back for a moment and looked at the kind of money he potentially lost. So he shouldn't have returned. And that's easier said, right? Hindsight's 20/20. It's easy to say that now, but he shouldn't have. It cost him. I think that it did. Maybe I'm wrong, and I'm open to listen. If someone wants to tell me otherwise, hey, tell me why I'm wrong. Or why you disagree, whatever. But I think he shouldn't have come back. I think it affected him negatively. So, Nick really wanted a natty first. And I get that. And I've said 110 times, I'm so thankful that he decided to come back. You might have missed that part, Kate. I'm not sure. Maybe you came in after that. I'm so thankful that he did. He really wanted to put the state on his shoulders and do something big for his state. I believe that. But I think from a business standpoint, if you really want to be a lottery pick, if you want to be a top 8, top 10 pick, and let's not act like he's not going to get big time money, because he is. I'm not telling you he's poor. He's out on the streets. That's not what's happening here, clearly. But in terms of wanting, if you really wanted to be that top 10 pick, a top 8 pick, or just a lottery pick, coming back didn't do him any favors. That's where I'm at with it. And I don't know that it did the team any good. I mean, did Nick Smith returning, was it a net positive or a net negative? I don't know. I don't really know. I feel like it's somewhere maybe in between. There was definitely some positivity. I think that teams, certainly when Nick Smith was on the floor, like I told you guys every one of those shows, he's a distraction. Teams are going to circle him. They're going to close him down. And I do think some of that happened. But at the same time, he made really not much of an impact on either side of the floor. And it was even, I thought at times, a liability defending outside, out in the perimeter. I thought at times he was a bit of a liability. There were a couple of games where I bragged on him in a post-game shows where I thought, my God, look at his defense. He was pretty aggressive, and he was. But then there are other games where he's giving up wide-open threes, So I don't know, man. I mean, it's just kind of how the cookie crumbled, but I'm happy for him. He's a first-round pick, man. His dreams are true. All these guys, Walsh, Black, and Nick Smith, their dreams are true, man. They're in the NBA. Congrats to all three of them. Maybe I'm wrong about Nick coming back. Unfortunately, what I really wish had happened is he never got hurt. I mean, right? We all wish that. Nick Smith clearly wishes that. Eric Musselman, everyone on the face of the earth, including his opponents, probably as well. No. Not if you're a Mizzou fan, because you're trash if you're a Mizzou fan. But I wish he'd never been hurt, because we wouldn't be in this situation where we're talking about this. I think had he been healthy, I think it would have been a huge net positive for Arkansas. I'm not saying the guy wasn't good. You know how I feel about Nick. I thought Nick was just a straight baller. This dude was good. He was legit. Watched a lot of his film. Watched a lot of his highlights. Was so excited, like all of you guys were, about Nick being here, along with Walsh and Black, and even Pinion and the guys that didn't get the kind of minutes that maybe they'll get next year. But I just think I don't know that. I just don't know that it was a net positive that he returned after his injury. I don't know. If you guys want to tell me I'm wrong, please do so. If you want to do a call-in show to have this debate, I think it's going to become one of those basketball pillars of off-season discussion. Or at least around here it will be. It's one that's certainly should at least be talked about and discussed. I just don't. I saw Charlotte fans last night saying he had character issues. I don't know nothing about that. I didn't see any character issues. If Nick Smith Jr. doesn't come back, then his knee injury looks more serious. Well, because then what happens, Shaheed, is you go through an evaluation process where they are talking to his, and I'm sure they already did. Maybe that's at the end of the day. Maybe that's what ultimately why he fell was they did talk to some doctors. They did. I mean, of course they did. They're about to invest millions of dollars into a player. But what I'm saying is not only do you have the injury, Shaheed, but then you have, when he came back, how there was no progression in his game in terms of where he was at versus where he was and then where he was at that point in the season. There was no progression. He didn't get better. He didn't look better. At times it looked like, my God, put him on the bench. He doesn't need to be on the floor. That's what I'm saying, how I believe it could have hurt his lottery pick status. I think him playing, it showed these GMs, wait a minute, he's losing minutes. He's not gaining minutes. He's losing minutes. So NBC Boston was over the moon about Jordan. Yeah, I'm going to tell you, fans are pretty excited. They like him. He could be a utility type player. I just think he's going to be a kind of a work in progress. It might take him a couple of years. And like I said, I could be wrong. He could be a star from the get-go. I see people hating on the Chandler Lawson pickup like we had other options. Yeah, I mentioned that earlier. You're out of options. And I think it's good depth. We're talking about his length, 7'6" wingspan or whatever it is. Those are some pretty long arms, man. So you have a little bit of length at the 4 spot, right? You feel like you have a little bit more depth there. He's not a 6'9". He's not a 6'9", like a high level scorer forward, right? He's going to end up being your probably kind of a utility guy. It could be a net positive for his mind. No one can ever say Nick Smith Jr. walked away from his home state. And that right there is it, man. He never walked away. Again, that's why I don't understand. The Nick Smith Jr. hate from Hog fans. Not that they're the majority, because they're not. They're probably 10% of people on Twitter, of Hog fans on Twitter. I just don't understand it. The guy he had everything to risk coming back. He could have re-injured himself and then not been a pick at all. And he risked it, man. He did not have to come back. I am certain that his team around him laid down some options, and one of the options were take that time off, properly go through some more rehab, and it might even be unnecessary rehab, but do it anyways. Take the rest of the year off or go back. Those are probably the two options right there at that point. And he chose to come back. And I'm never, listen, he didn't have to, and he did. Now, you can argue, well, yeah, but he was going to face all kinds of negative rhetoric from Hog fans. So what? At that point, who cares, man? You're talking about the potential of not even being an NBA draft pick because of re-injuring that knee. What do you think about Chandler Lawson? Yeah, I'm sorry, allergies coming up. I'm getting congested. I talked about it earlier about Chandler. I don't know that I buy the two-way player stuff that's out there. People are saying he's a good two-way. I don't know. I love his wingspan. He certainly got some athleticism. He looks like he could finish at the rim pretty well. Some of his numbers are a little bit misleading, and I did have someone ask me about the 50% shooting outside earlier. He took 14 shots outside. He did knock down 7 of his 14, but obviously that's not even an attempt a game. That's not a lot of shots through the length of a college basketball season at Memphis or anywhere. To just have 14 shots, yeah, he made 50% of them. Cool. can he raise that number up, and will that be his role? Can he stretch the floor? Anytime you got a big like that that's shooting, that can knock, that has the potential, 50% still nothing to be discouraged about. RC4 not getting picked up kind of surprised me. Like I said earlier, man, his projections were all over the place. Before the end of the season, there were people that had him as a potential 25th overall pick, 20 to 25th, to not being drafted at all. I mean, I don't know. Anything could have. I think had he been drafted in the first round, it would have been more surprising than him not getting drafted. But, yeah, disappointing. I thought he would have. Somebody's got to do the dirty work. Chandler Lawson could be the name. Listen, I'm not saying he's not. I agree. I agree. Not everyone can be the 16, 18 point a game player. I get that. He could be, who knows, man, he could come in here and set the world on fire as a interior defender. You know, I mean, against his numbers don't blow you away. 6'7", 215, 5 points a game, just under 5 rebounds a game. He's under 1 assist a game. 56% shooter. Of course, we know majority of those shots are happening around the rim. I think he had something like, I could be way off here, but I think he had something like 14 dunks all year, if I saw that correctly. He got just under 20 minutes a game. Will he get more or less here? That's a question. I don't know. Was kind of hoping his rebound totals would be a little higher. Was hoping he'd be like a 7 to 8 rebound per game kind of guy. Or well-balanced, 8 to 9 points a game with about 6 or 7 rebounds a game, something like that. But again, numbers don't tell you everything. A stat sheet doesn't tell you the whole story, right? 19 and a half minutes kind of, but he was pretty pivotal in a couple of games for them this year. I'm not hating on the kid at all. I think, he's a super senior. He'll be a fifth-year guy. You got to be excited about the senior leadership they're going to have. They're going to have several. I think it's like 5 super seniors or something. I mean, it's kind of crazy. They're going to be stocked to the brim with experience. That's big. There's zero chance Ellis over Devo. Zero. Yeah, I wouldn't put him over Devo if that's going to be his role. Devo is Mr. Razorback. Even if he never goes pro, he'll be taken care of. It's the Sanders price. What's up, Sanders? You look new here. If you haven't already, feel free to hit the subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. Devin says Ellis, Mark, Devo, Trevon, Mitchell for his starting 5. Lawson is going to be Brazil's backup. Says Arkansas is better than you think. Yeah, I do think, and I'm definitely not prepared to give you my projections on Arkansas basketball. But I do like this lineup. I like the potential. God bless America. Devo Davis in Brazil coming back is so huge, man. That's so big. Even when Devo has his down moments, when he kind of, for a few games, you kind of wonder what the hell's going on. You can always count on that cat at the end of February, going into March, and then in the month of March. You can count on him. And then Brazil, who I think is, I don't know, man. I'm really high on Brazil. I hope, he had the whole month of February, March is about the time when he started practicing a little bit. So he had the end of the postseason, the end of the regular season, but definitely the postseason, March. He's going to have April, May, June, July. He's got a long time for his rehabilitation and to get back into basketball, into Eric Musselman basketball shape. He's going to have plenty of time. I just hope we get the version of Brazil that you got before the injury, not only for Arkansas' sake, but for his sake as well. I think he's a potential, I don't want to say superstar, but I just think he could be a big deal in the SEC and was certainly on the rise before the injury. So, yeah. I don't understand the infatuation with Ellis. We have 2 or 3 more guards better than him. Minifield and Battle and Devo all better. Well, I don't know. You guys can debate that amongst yourselves in chat. So that is going to do it. We went over an hour, but that's okay. I appreciate you guys. You know, without you guys, I'm unable to do this stuff, right? I mean, without viewers and subscribers. I do have some edited content out if you want to go check it out. I did another thing on KJ Jefferson. 247 put KJ in their on their Heisman list. So that's really cool. Good for him. I'm not going to tell you where, even though you probably already know. Shout out to the legendary status members, Jay Massey, Thomas Nunley, Timothy Wiesen, and Will Watkins, all a part of that $20 plus legendary status. Now, I will tell you, if you give more than $20, it won't let you on legendary status. I didn't know that. If you want to continue giving more than 20, then don't feel obligated to join the legendary status member. But if you want to hop up to that $20 status, obviously you'll be a part of the name shout out. But again, Jay Massey, Thomas Nunley, Timothy Wiesen, Will Watkins, shout out to the legendary status members. Thank you to Fishman for the $5 super chat and all Patreon supporters. Appreciate every one of you guys. Okay, that's gonna do it. I'm gonna get ready, go cook some dinner. Gonna have some. I'm gonna have pork chops tonight, actually. Congrats to all the guys drafted. Big time for them. Listen, all of us flapping our gums, you know, whatever. Media, fans, whatever the hell. Doesn't matter. They could shut us all up with their play at the next level, and I'm excited to see these guys, man. Especially Walsh. Obviously, I'm going to be a little biased towards Walsh with him joining my Celtics. So I'm pretty excited to see what happens with him. I could be wrong about him being kind of a project player, but the potential's there for him. I do believe that. So, yeah, I can't wait to see all these guys. And even the other Razorbacks we mentioned a little bit ago, you know, they're still playing, right? Like Jalen and Isaiah and Mason. Excited. I always try to keep up with all those guys and what they do in the league, you know, to the best of my ability. A lot going on, you know, but it's exciting, man. The NBA, there's a period of time there where there weren't very many Razorbacks. Now it's like you can almost just pick a team and they might have a hog on that roster, right? It's a good feeling. It's kind of like Major League Baseball. You can pick a team and you've got some up-and-coming player, a former Razorback who gets moved up to the AAAs or gets called up to the big leagues. It's exciting, man. It's always exciting to follow these former Razorbacks as they make their way through their pro career. So shout out to all of them. Wish them all the best until they play the Celtics. Listen, if you play the Celtics, all bets are off. I'm going to hope you have a horrible game. But, yeah, all right. Shout out to all you guys, and I'll see you on the next one probably Monday. Probably. But just make sure you hit the notification button, and you got to be subscribed to do that. So, yeah, hopefully notifications are better about getting sent out. But, you know, if they're not, whatever. Refresh the page. I don't care what you do. You got to be here for these. We have a lot of fun. Woo pig, and I'll see you guys next week.